Hello there folks, and welcome back to A Chap Reviews. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through movies, both modern and classic, books and other forms of entertainment that a gentleman may enjoy. Now today I'm reviewing a classic film. Earlier today, not 2 hours ago, I watched a film which is 39 years old, which totally passed me by when it was released in 1986, and it is The Mission. A British film directed by English director Roland Joffe and featuring the amazing performances of Jeremy Irons and Robert De Niro amongst a glittering cast of supporting actors, none the least amongst which is a young Liam Neeson. And it is a film which in 1986, although it was very successful, it won the Palme d'Or in the Cannes Film Festival. It was nominated for a couple of Academy Awards, including Best Director and Best Picture. It was a film which passed me by because in 86 I would have been 16, and on paper you look at this film and you think, well, it's a historical film set in 18th century South America, and it's got a strong overtone of religion which runs throughout the film. And that wouldn't have been me in 1986. 39 years ago, I wasn't looking perhaps to stretch my mind, my conscience, as this film undoubtedly does for the viewer. But actually I watched it, as I say, just a couple of hours ago, and I was, dumbstruck by the quality of this movie. It has passed the annals of time so easily, so readily. It's as watchable, and its message is as powerful today as it was in 1986, and I imagine in years to come it's going to be a film which will be watched by generations in the future, and they will gain something from it because it is a historical drama, obviously. It is set in the 18th century in South America, and the basis of the story is we have a Spanish Jesuit priest played by Jeremy Irons who ensconces himself within a community of indigenous South American Indians, untouched really by humanity up to this point. A previous Jesuit priest has been martyred in his attempt to convert them to Christianity. In fact, he goes to his death so doing. And Jeremy Irons takes his place and he gains the confidence of this tribe of South American Indians. And he converts them basically to Christianity. He has them, along with them, builds this mission in the upper reaches of the South American jungles, basically. And that's kind of his journey. We meet a man who has strength of character, enormous courage, great faith in his belief of religion. But then there's also a side story as well. We have Robert De Niro's character, a chap called Rodriguez Mendoza, who, when we initially meet him, he is a horrible man, a swaggering brute of an individual who is in fact a slave trader and a mercenary. And he goes into the jungle, he captures indigenous Indians and takes them into the slave trade. And he has a life-changing situation where he gets into a duel with his own brother. His brother dies, and De Niro's character is overwhelmed with remorse and shame and grief by his activities. And he encounters Jeremy Irons' character, Father Gabriel, and Father Gabriel convinces him to join him on his journey to penitence at the mission. And really a large part of the story is Robert De Niro's character going on that journey of penitence, of him being saved from his own mental anguish and learning to love life again. In fact, there's an incredibly moving scene in which De Niro, having gone for some time into the rainforest along with Father Gabriel on their journey to the Indians, he suffers a full nervous mental breakdown of his own feelings, and he weeps uncontrollably. And Jeremy Irons, embraces him. And there's this extremely touching moment of love and affection of, the priest to somebody who needs his help. It's a very, very moving picture, really. It's a film which takes you on a journey. And it's a journey which is sometimes hard to sit through because the emotions that it dredges up and you see on the screen take you along with it. This film, really does explore quite weighty themes if you open your mind to take them on board. The morality of colonialism and what it brings to the societies who fall under the heel of these colonial powers, slavery and oppression. There is the forgiveness and its value and its importance to people, and also the futility of pacifism in the face of great greed, as has always been the case in history in the past. Now, the performances are nothing short of breathtaking. I mean, as you would expect, Jeremy Irons and Robert De Niro are both actors in their time who have won the Academy Award for Best Actor. And in this film, before their greatest works, I would go as far as to say, they give sterling performances. Jeremy Irons gives a performance of great dignity of this Jesuit priest who is unwavering in his commitment to his faith and pacifism. And I think Irons is somewhat overlooked as an actor, really, in the modern world. He doesn't court great, fabulous roles. You now see him playing kind of supporting roles in his later years. He's now 77. He was, I think, 37 when he made this movie. But now we see him in sort of butler roles in DC movies and the like. I think he's, when you see him in movies like this, he'll come to be remembered as one of the greats, as indeed Robert De Niro is. De Niro in this film plays one of his best roles ever, and I think he's gone on record to say that this role was one of his favourites, which took a lot from him to portray this man on a journey, as I say, from swaggering monster to really a man who sinks to his lowest low and then builds himself up as he comes to understand and love the world again. And as the story unfolds, throughout the whole movie, by the way, we get the haunting melodies of Ennio Morricone's score to this movie, which I think, as I say, having only just watched this a few hours ago, will live in my mind as one of the best soundtracks to any movie in cinematic history, particularly Gabriel's oboe, the music which plays as a sort of golden thread throughout the film. It's haunting, penetrating to the soul. And as the movie unfolds, we see our actors in their roles converging upon what will be the grand finale. They build this mission, they build a trust with a group of people who hitherto before had nothing but negativity to do with the white European settlers who colonized their country. And there's a lot of political machinations where the colonial powers are exchanging certain parts of land, and ultimately, the area on which the mission is situated becomes the responsibility of the Portuguese colonists who seek to enslave the people and take over this part of the world. And there comes a finale in which a stand has to be taken by, the pacifists. Robert De Niro's character decides to take up arms again in order to protect, the mission and the people that he has come to love. And ultimately, I'm not going to tell you how it ends, you have to watch this, but it is a story of martyrdom, of sacrifice, of redemption, of human love. And I'm not going to have any qualms in saying to you at this point, at the end of the movie, I was personally reduced to tears by the message that this movie puts across. And, I was overwhelmed by emotion at the end. And that's saying something, because I am not easily brought to tears at this stage in my life, having seen so much and, enjoyed so much art over the years. But this film, it easily did that. It is spectacular, not just in the performances, but in the location where the filming took place. The vistas, the South American jungle. It is breathtaking in its beauty. And of course, so very relevant, because that part of the world is still under threat from galloping, no longer colonization, but commerce and greed. So it still has an amazing message to tell us, even though What I also liked about this movie is that there is a certain austerity to the way that the story is told. It is rather simple. You know, there isn't an enormous amount of dialogue. We are left to use our brains, our thoughts to follow the story along. The scenery, breathtaking as it is, we are shown it in simple terms. The costumes, the clothing, the robes, simple. Nothing is bigged up in a Hollywood sense. This is storytelling at its very best, using the audience's intelligence for us to follow along. We're not spoon-fed the story. This is a film that we have to think about. And in that regard, this isn't a film for everybody. It is a film which for me is somewhat slow. It is somewhat meditative. It's a film which demands an emotional investment from the viewer. And I watched it alone, simply on my television at home, where I could be at one with my thoughts and my emotions. And, I loved it. And as you can probably tell, this movie enthused me, and you're not going to be surprised when I tell you what my score out of 5 bowler hats for this movie is. It is a resounding 5. 5 out of 5 bowler hats for me. This is a movie that has touched me. I feel great regret that I never saw it years ago, but then maybe I wasn't ready for it until this point of my life. If you've not seen The Mission, or you haven't seen it for a long time, maybe you saw it in the 80s or the 90s when it was on its first flushes, why not seek it out? You can find it pretty much everywhere these days. Watch it on a streaming service or even on YouTube, I think. And I think if you open your mind, it will give you a message which you may not be expecting. For me, it certainly did. I deeply enjoyed this movie. And that's all I'm going to say about it. I enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed my review of The Mission, a classic movie from 39 years ago, which still has a lot to give even today, all these years later, nearly 4 decades later. If you've got a movie, classic, that you'd like me to review, drop it in. Let me know in the comments section, or even send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget, I also have another channel in which I talk about men's style, self-development and personal grooming called The Chap's Guide. Links are all in the show notes below. So, until the next time we meet, take care and I'll see you soon.